Good afternoon. This is Noreen at the Ayurveda with Noreen podcast, formerly the Healthy Peaceful podcast. I mention that because I'm thinking of changing my name back to the Healthy Peaceful podcast. I'd love your input on that. Today, I have the good fortune to chat with a fabulous guest, Karin Lubin. While there's so much that Karin and I can focus on today in our chat, we connected due to my interest in the book, The Passion Test by Janet Attwood and Chris Attwood. And we'll start by delving into how the Passion Test can lead you to a more fulfilling life. Actually, a life that embodies the very core values that Karin espouses in her work: connection, wisdom, integrity, leadership, and of course, my personal favorites, adventure and fun. But first, a little bit about Karin. Born in New York City, Karin was raised by her Norwegian mother, who fought in the Resistance Movement against Hitler, and her Jewish father, who was born and bred in Queens, a powerful combination. Karin currently characterizes her work as that of a transformational trainer, journal creator, and wisdom healer. This description, however, doesn't truly reveal her broad business background. Having received a PhD in education, her business leadership roles have included that of a public school education administrator for 15 years and the global director of the Passion Test Facilitator programs, essentially training the trainer, a role that she has held for over 30 years. Her real-life experiences working with teams in both the public and private sectors have given her a unique vantage point for the work she is currently focused on: creating teams based on the concept of intuitive leadership. Of course, a systematic approach inherently yields results, and Karin's approach does just that. She has proven that creating invincible, synergistic, and empowered teams is not difficult. You just have to have an open mind, be willing to dispel limiting beliefs, and of course, be schooled in the tools required for a green light. Karin is also a creator of journals, 2 series of wisdom journals, one focusing on the seasons using self-help themes, and another on internal family systems and the 8 characteristics of self. As in her work with intuitive leadership, Karin brings her core values to all of her teachings and programs: connection, wisdom, integrity, leadership, and again, my personal favorites, adventure and fun. Welcome, Karin.
Oh, that's great. Wow, that was quite, you seem to, in your podcast, do quite a bit around the bio of a person. I'm so impressed with that.
Well,
Wow.
I thank you for that. I think that's because, I'm Irish.
Oh, okay. That's what does it? All right.
Well, we can sometimes say too much,
Oh, I
but
love it.
be very reserved. But the Irish are also storytellers.
Ah, yes.
So,
got it. Beautiful.
Sometimes
Right.
I like to fill in,
I love that.
and it's probably also my background of not the last 14 years of my life, but the 14 years before that, I was an attorney. So
Detail.
we like words.
Yeah, detail. That's
Attorneys
awesome.
are, that's a misnomer. I mean, that's a misunderstanding because they're not necessarily detailed oriented. They tend to be big picture people, but they don't miss the details.
That's right. Yes. Well, you did not. And you listed all my passions. And, I have to say that you are living where Janet Bray Attwood is living in Fairfield, Iowa. So,
I am.
Usually you are.
Usually, right now I'm in Connecticut.
That's right. Yes. That's right. That's right.
So tell me about, did you have something you wanted to say about Fairfield?
Well, I have been there, and I have seen the Maharishi University, and I've seen the domes and the strong influence of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So it's just really the Passion Test book, which is the subtitle is The Effortless Path to Discovering Your Life Purpose.
Absolutely.
That was written by Janet and Chris Attwood. And at one point, they actually were married. Yes. They're not married anymore. Yes, and they have not been married for like 20 some years. They are still best friends. And so is Chris's wife. is also a really great and dear friend to Janet. So they have done some phenomenal work because relationship is also very important to them. And they have found many tools to actually help them to really experience a larger family,
Yeah, well,
family.
let's delve right in. I can't
Cool.
wait. I'm looking forward to it. First of all, Fairfield, yes. Anyone who's visited Fairfield or has lived in Fairfield, there's definitely energetically, it's definitely one of those places where there's a lot happening under the surface.
That's right. Yes, and Janet Janet likes to say it's your favorite vacation spot.
Yeah, it's even better when you live there.
Yeah,
I was
that's
living
right.
there. I lived there for a year and a half. I still do have a place there, and I will go back as soon as things settle down here.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway. Well, let's talk about the book, The Passion Test, which you just showed us.
Yes.
Now, this book was published in 2006.
Right.
And I want to start with this question because, in our fast-moving sort of, okay, what's happening today? That seems like a long time ago. So what's different today in 2022 or going into 2023 versus when this book was published? Meaning, how was your work as a trainer of the Passion Test facilitators? How has it evolved during this time? Also, I'm also intending on what you've noticed in terms of just your work regarding the Passion Test and how this has evolved over the last 15 years.
Great question.
Bring us into today.
Yeah, so it started, like you said, in 2006 with the book. Then I believe in 2007, 2008, Chris and Janet did their first training to help people become facilitators of this process. The book, there's a lot of things that are the same, and there are definitely some things that have changed. So some of the questions that we used in the book are not the same anymore. Okay. For example, the first question, which is more important, I think is now, which feels better. What we realized is that we were using questions that got us still in our head. And so when we brought it back down into our heart, which feels better, it then really created the context of the Passion Test process is kind of twofold to me. One is it helps you prioritize your passions, so you know what your top 5, and that's actually what Chris and Janet were training facilitators, and we've trained maybe, 6,000 people, maybe more. I have no idea now at this point, but it's like in 65, 66 countries. And facilitators are then showing people how to prioritize their passions. But then the cool thing about this tool is that it becomes a decision-making tool. So it really is a twofold process. And the reason it becomes a decision-making tool is you use your 5 passions. You look at them every day.
Sure. She talked about these passion cards, or you can have them on cards if you'd like to.
I have them right here, right here. And so I look at them every day. And then what I do is when I'm faced with a choice, decision, or opportunity, I choose in favor of my passions. And that is so key. So we're basically saying, give yourself permission to say yes to what's important to you. That's it. That's like the foundational piece here. Right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's really useful because many times we can identify our passions, but then it's tough to stay with our passions.
That's right.
There's so many distractions, there's so many choices, there's so many decisions, and I think what you've described is really key. Is that this is actually a decision-making tool, and we're looking at it every day, and it's an opportunity to say, is this choice that I have to make, this opportunity that's come my way, is this aligned with my passions?
Right. So you actually ask yourself, will this take me closer to living this passion? Because if it is, then you're like, heck yes.
Oh, yeah.
But if it takes you away from your passion, you're going to say, no, thank you. Yeah. And this is key, is that when you are in the top 100 successful people on the planet, this is what they found. in a study is that the most successful people said no way more than they said yes. But when they said yes, it was to say yes just to the things that were their priority, which we call passions.
Yeah, yeah, that's really awesome. And I also like what you shared about this passion test and this exercise that the passion test facilitators bring people through is really it's designed to bring them to their passions, but during the course of training the trainer and working with individuals, you've noticed things and you've evolved and adapted and changed based on, hey, what's working, what's not.
Right.
For instance, you shared moving from the head to the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I love that. Those are really great responses, and I love the way that it's evolving in that way.
Well, and the other piece around that is that, you know, once we say we give ourselves permission to say yes to what's important to us, we also have to release the shoulds. Okay, because there's a lot of time when our world around us is saying, oh, you should do this, or you even think, oh, this was my passion like 20 years ago, so this should, maybe this is still my, you know, we're not really checking in. And there's a beautiful quote that that you always want to go within first, and then to be able to express what's happening on the outside. And so therefore, you're always doing this constant reflection of checking in and then going without. So it's like if you were to imagine, you know, how did we get a light bulb? Well, somebody had to have the idea inside, you know, their body, their brain, and they got excited, right? And then boom, Thomas Edison.
Yeah, it's the inner and the outer, and that's actually
right.
It's also very akin to just the Maharishi's teachings as well, in terms of you know, the unmanifest and the manifest,
that is absolutely right.
Sure that you know, it's kind of the check-in. And I like what you said, that in this decision making, there is this component of, well, I should, or I feel responsible, I feel obligated, even though in her book, Janet talks about feeling contracted versus expanded.
That's right.
You know, the green light, red light.
Mm-hmm.
And so those feelings really come into the body as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So it's very important that when you have to release the shoulds.
Yeah.
And then write down 10 things, stream of consciousness. So you write down the 10 things, and there's like 8 categories. So we want people to look at their entire life. So
yeah, let's actually let me redirect a little bit.
Sure.
It sounds like you're gonna get into the specifics of what the passion test is, and that's actually my next question. Can you just give us a brief overview of what it is and how is this useful to my life?
Sure. So how is it useful? Let me start there. Okay. First of all, it helps you stay focused. You get clarity. You get excited about your life again. I mean, how many of us, you know, want to wake up and go, yay, because
actually, that's a great point, that enthusiasm, because I was listening to Deepak Chopra this week, and he was talking about, you know, the recipe for a happy life. And the first thing, because he was reading this article, and he said the first thing they said in this article was positive thinking. And he said, well, I don't believe in positive thinking. And I thought, he doesn't believe in positive thinking? You know, I kind of, but he said, I believe in enthusiasm. Okay. Yes, and I thought, wow, that there is a distinction. So yeah.
So you really have to have that, you know, the benefits are that you then are living the life that you really want. Sure. Because here's the thing, is when you're saying yes to everything, which unfortunately a lot of people do, and I would say women in particular, at least this is my experience.
Sure.
That's what I have done in the past. But once I really got myself clear about what my passions were, what I was going to say yes to, and then everything else became a no thank you, my whole life kind of aligned. It's like my mind, my heart, and my actions all came into alignment. And for me, that was phenomenally powerful. Because if you've ever said something and not done it, you feel out of alignment, right? So to me, when it all came together, I know what my passions are. I look at them every day, because neuroscience actually tells us that when you do that, the reticular activating system in our brain is actually starting to look for those things. It's like the red car, when you...
Of course, it's...
Yeah, so...
mentions the three key words, kind of the triad of the passion test, which is intention, attention, and no tension.
Well, you have definitely read the book, so good for you. That is awesome. And that is actually the overarching concept, and we call that the passion test formula.
Right.
But so that, let's just go there, because you just brought it up.
Sure.
That does become kind of the overarching way in which we live our life. So intention. So we have gotten clear what our passions are. So that's the intention, when we consciously state what we want in our life. Yes. Okay, so that's the number one, intention. Okay, these are like the three keys to truly living a successful life. Mm-hmm. So intention, attention. Now you start to put attention on what you want in your life. So that's obviously your passions, right? So action engages attention.
Of course.
Right? So you start to take action. This is not a process where you figure out your 5 passions and then you put it on a shelf and never look at it. This is where you are engaged every day.
And this can change. Your passions.
Absolutely, your passions.
I know they suggest, revisiting at least every 6 months, but it could be more frequently if things are really,
feels off. If it feels off, yes, you do it again. Okay. Absolutely. I mean, I know for me, when I first started, I think I went through this process of being taken through the passion test process 8 times. 8 times.
Right.
Because I wanted to refine the words. I wasn't like, I was still doing a little bit of, I should say blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I remember I tried to do this process by myself, on myself.
Right.
I don't believe that works very well. Now, there's about 15%.
That's why I want you to talk about the mechanics.
Sure.
Let's talk about the mechanics. Yeah. So you can't do this. You need a facilitator.
Well, I believe you do. And I would say 85% of the time, people need someone else to ask them. Because here's the truth, at least for me, I'll just speak for me, that when I asked myself the question, I was not honest.
Yeah.
I didn't get real, but when you or someone else, the facilitator, was asking me, which feels better, I would be like, oh, okay, now wait, hold on. Now I got really honest. And so that is something where I believe when you are being taken through the process, it's powerful to have someone, I believe, someone else, but not everyone's like me. I know that, and there are a few people who will be honest with themselves. But let me just go back to the no tension, finish off the passion test formula, because I don't want to go too far all over the place. So we talked about intention, we've talked about attention, putting attention on what matters to you, and then the third is the no tension piece. And I think this is probably the hardest, at least for me, again, in which you're coming to, okay, so I have my list of passions. So I want to put my attention on them, right? I want to take action. And then I want to, no tension, relax. I want to be at peace and surrender. Because if I attach to how and what it looks like exactly, that's that contracted place. Yeah. And that's, the difference between contraction and expansion. So when you're contracted, it's very hard to bring anything in because you're all pulled in. Mm-hmm. But when you're open and relaxed and you're like, okay, I'm going to stay open, then things start to show up because your brain is filtering things out for you and saying, okay, this is kind of like your passion. All right, look at this. and you start to go, oh, okay, I haven't really looked at that door very much. And now I'm going to walk through it, because that actually, when I look at my passions, it actually supports like 3 of my passions. Oh my God. And I wouldn't have looked at it otherwise.
I think that's the no tension I love, because for me, my experience has been when I am relaxed and I am feeling more open and not frazzled, or just, in the grips of something that I have to have it. And this is where I think meditation really helps, because it allows me to feel more expanded.
Absolutely.
And then I start connecting things or seeing things that I didn't see before.
Nice.
And I start the openness, being open. It's not something I'm talking about. It's something, it's like being, I am open.
That's right.
And,
beautiful.
So that, I think is really a key component.
It is. And there's another way in which you can get to that no tension piece, because Janet Bray Attwood always says, strike like lightning in all directions. So
I love that.
If you can't relax, then take all the action to take, right? In number 2, attention, right? And then you're going to be like, I've done everything. And now you're just, you're having to just take a breather and you chill out finally. And that's the other way that you might
so just go full throttle,
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. So
there's 2 ways to get. There's 2 ways, right? Because if you can't just go, okay, I meditate and I'm chill and I'm relaxed now, then do everything you think possible so that you do finally go, okay, I've done everything I know. Now I'm going to chill out and relax, because it's at that point that you become open again.
Right.
Because, and Janet always says, are you the general manager of the universe? And of course we're not.
Right. Yes. Right? Yes. That's definitely right from her book. There's no doubt.
Yes, and in the passion test process, what we're doing is we're focusing on the what is important to you. We're not focusing on how it's going to show up, because that's something that is bigger than us, right? So, God, nature, divine intelligence, whatever you want to call this thing that's bigger than you and I, that's what's going to help support us. And that's why we have to get into that relaxed, no tension place.
Okay.
And then things begin to show up. And they're often not even what we think they're going to look like.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there was a distinction in the book that, first of all, that's wonderful. We have to, when we're writing down our passions and coming to our top 5 passions, it's the what that we're focusing on, but we don't have to know how it's going to happen. We leave the details to the universe.
That's right. Because often if we...
Now, that doesn't mean we just sit back and do nothing.
No, that's right. You're right. Absolutely. No, we do not. We do not twiddle our thumbs. And the thing about when we focus on the how, often that will trip up our brain. And then we stop ourselves.
Okay.
So that's why we suggest to not focus on the how. Right. We allow the universe, something larger than us, whatever that word is for you, to bring it. And again, you are definitely taking action.
Okay.
You're doing, so you're putting intention on your passions, putting attention on them every day. And of course, you're making decisions based on them. So there's a lot of action and attention already on these passions. And then the no tension as you start to see things show up. Can I tell a story about how I became the director? Because
I'd love to hear it.
It was actually quite a surprise to me. So I actually read the book. I was with my husband and we were starting our Quantum Leap coaching and consulting company. Okay. And one of the things is I wanted a tool to really help people get straight in and directed and not talk superficially about lots of stuff, but get to the heart of the matter, boom, and start with people right then as a coach, life coach at the time. So I had read the book and I was then miraculously invited to this event, and Janet Bray Attwood happened to be there, and she was doing, in 2008, I believe it was, the Passion Test workshop. It was a 3-hour workshop, and there's like 400 people, and I happened to be there with my sister-in-law and her husband and our niece and my husband, and we all went to this event. And I think my niece, who was 9 years old at the time, was the only kid there. Everybody else was adults. Okay, so we all went through this 3-hour workshop. Everyone figured out what their 5 passions were. And at some point, Janet was told that there was this one child who had figured out her passions. And so Janet, she loves kids, by the way. So she's trying to find the kid, and there's Morgan. And she asks Morgan, what are her passions? And Morgan just kind of just tells her, blah, 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 blah. And I think one was, being in the sun or being on an island, and anyway, she was just saying what was going on for her. And Janet, in that moment, had the aha that she was going to start the Passion Test for Kids and Teens program.
Oh, okay.
Which was like, now in my background, education, right? I had been a teacher first, and I was an administrator. So I was like steeped in education and kids. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, very interesting. Next day, Janet then asked, how many of you want to support families to live their passions? And so like all of us, including me, I'm like raising my hand, like, heck yes, of course. And then she was like, okay, go to the back of the room, sign up for the Passion Test Facilitator training. I had no idea what I was doing, but I had looked at my passions. And when she said, how many of you want to support families and help others, I was like, oh my God, it was on my passion list. So I just went, okay, this is where I practice saying yes. So I went to the back of the room, I signed up. I had no idea where the money was coming. And here's the other interesting thing.
I like that statement. You said there was a realization that this was an opportunity for you to practice saying yes. The decision, the fact that you went through the passion test, it's a tool to help you make better decisions that are more aligned with your 5 top passions in your life. Mm-hmm. That will lead to a more fulfilling life, and you practice saying yes. And that can feel uncomfortable.
Well, it did, especially because all of a sudden I was being asked to pay a bunch of money. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust this. I did. I went through it, and then I went and got trained in Canada, I believe it was in the beginning of 2009. Sure. And so did Morgan, my 9-year-old niece, and her mother and the father. And we all went, and Morgan went to the first Passion Test for Kids and Teens program.
Wow.
Which was so cool. Great. And I went through the adult version, right? And it was amazing to see the change actually even in my niece, the confidence and her ability to be able to be speaking to a large audience of adults. Wow. And she was once upon a time super shy.
Well, that's an awesome story.
But here's the even weirder, interesting piece is, okay, so I thought, Noreen, I'm a Passion Test facilitator. A month later, there's an email from Chris and Janet saying, we're looking for a manager, or not a manager, they were looking for a director of the Passion Test programs. So again, I look at my passions, and I was like, oh my God, I love that training. It was this 4-day training is still my favorite training that I've ever gone to. And it was inspiring. There was like lots of people from all over the world. You're seeing people get all these ahas, transformations.
Yeah, you were just in your.
So I was like, hell yes, I'm going to say yes to applying.
It was an opportunity to practice.
Oh, totally. Now, I thought I was actually going to be this life coach, and instead, I'm like applying to this position, and I ended up getting the position as director of the Passion Test programs. It was so not where I thought I was going.
Well, I think they say, I think Janet's indicating in the book that it's it's what you've written down as your passion or something even greater.
Exactly. Something even better. That's right.
Something
Absolutely.
I haven't even imagined.
Exactly. So that's where that showed up.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Well, I want to stay on track a little bit. I know I can definitely go off. So we're a success-driven culture. How do you define success, Karin?
I define success by actually aligning with the things that are most important to me and living them fully, and then seeing how emotionally, spiritually, financially, I don't know, whatever other ones I haven't mentioned, all come into alignment. Because what I have found is that if I really put all my focus and attention on something, like for example, I'm doing these, you mentioned the journals, and I now facilitate 2 journaling wisdom circles. I started out with 1 circle. Now I have 2. So I see this momentum of things, like if you put your attention on something, it starts to show up. I have an
and then
exercise
you have an
class, same
opportunity
thing.
to experiment with,
Exactly.
you may think it's your passion, you
That's
sit
right.
to it, but in the actual reality of the day-to-day, it's either going to light you up or it won't. So
Right. Exactly. So success to me is far more than the financial piece. It's that, and it's really the success of feeling like I've lived my fullest life, my potential. I've maximized the things that I do in the world for maximum benefit to all. It's the Dharma, right?
yeah,
So
of
when we
course.
live our Dharma, then we're really, to me, that's ultimate success.
That's beautiful. I love that. Can you have success, Karin, without passion? Do you believe you can have success without passion?
I think at some point you can lose the passion. I think it starts, but and sometimes I think you can have a talent or a strength,
Right.
and that might not be so engaging or passion driven for you at a certain point. And that's when you have to see that your strengths and your passions, when they align together, that's when I believe that's when you're going to continue on with your success. Because I don't think you can, as an administrator, I found that I lost my passion.
Sure.
And I was good at what I did.
Yeah. You're
Wasn't
going
my
through the
passion
motion.
anymore.
And
Yeah.
that's a really great point, I think, that you make, is that this is going to morph and change.
It
And that,
does. Nobody told me that, but gosh darn, Noreen, it's true.
we thought it would be, hey, my journey as attorney to natural food chef to,
Right.
Ayurveda, working with Ayurveda. So it hasn't been linear, that's for sure.
Right. And you had asked originally about what's the process, or, take you through. And I'll just say that when somebody goes through this process with a facilitator, typically, you're asked to look at 8 different categories. So we didn't have the 8 categories. I think we had 7. So we've added 1. But there's things like health, relationships, spirituality. I think education is the one that we added. And then we talk about career and finances. And what we found is that when we talked about career instead of the financial piece, people would get hung up in the money.
Yeah.
And so we talk about, career and finances, but the thing that's different is that we say that the money is like a vehicle to help you get to live your passion.
Yeah, money is a means, not an end.
That's right. Now, some people actually love the process of making money. There's a few, folks out there.
Of course.
And I would say 99% of the population that I'm working with who are going through the passion test process are really looking at the money as a ways to support them in living their passions or living their fullest life. It's not about making the money.
Yeah, the money is the means.
Yeah, so that's shifted. That has shifted somewhat. So when you ask about what's different from the book to today, we talk about physical environment, we talk about recreation and fun, and we talk about still service, like what kind of legacy might you want to leave. So there are these categories that we're referring to, so to help people then write down.
To get a little more focused and to consider maybe there's something that they overlooked when they're looking at their passions.
That's right.
Maybe the service component or the financial component. And maybe they're not seeking money, but they're seeking the emotional stability. They're seeking stability.
That's right.
It's the feeling.
That's right.
Of stability.
That's right.
I believe that's right from the book as well. Awesome. Well, the book emphasized the importance of imagining your ideal life versus your possible life. Explain.
Yes. Okay. So when you get into the next part of the passion test process, you then move into what we call markers. So we don't just leave you with your 5 passions and then you're done. What we do is we want you to actually now imagine what your passions might look like. And we don't just want you to imagine them like as tomorrow, but like into the future. Like if you were living that passion, if 0 was not at all, 10 was super duper living your passion, at a 10, what might you be doing? So if my passion is to be super strong, fit, and healthy, and I want to put in a marker, something that I actually would believe that I could do or would do, would be to, and I've always said this, and I always kind of find it funny, but it's a 10 for me. I would be able to do, I think I've said 20 pull-ups. I would be on the cover of some women's health magazine.
What is that magazine? Was it Oxygen or something? Or the magazine that was
there you go.
For the weightlifters?
Yeah, so any of those things would blow my mind. That would be a 10, okay? So you want to write something like that fits for you.
And you want it to be something that isn't immediately within reach. You really want to expand out. You want to let fly with those markers. Okay.
Yeah, so, we want to dream big.
All right. How many, so if one of my passions is to be, the top female bodybuilder in the US,
right?
In some sort of category, I don't even know the categories. What would so how many markers would I typically, it's kind of the subcategory. How many markers would I?
3 to 5. 3 to 5. And so, Noreen, you would probably look at least one marker that is super big, the dream big one, the audacious, big, hairy one, where you go, whoa, right? When you're training with some famous trainer and you're at the Olympics and you just won, the first place, right?
Something that actually seems laughable
but it's not. But it also is something that you maybe would like on some level. Like if you stretched it out big enough,
it wouldn't be coming into your consciousness.
That's right. So having another person to work with you, this is also really helpful. And when we go, because then they're there to support you to kind of open up maybe the box that you're in and see, oh yeah, like maybe you want to have an outstanding top-rated podcast, right? Maybe you have, the top, the president of Maharishi University or Dr. Roger is it Naram? Did I get that right?
Oh, Rajaram. Oh yeah, I'd love to interview Rajaram. There's no doubt.
Right. So you could have any of these. So that could be in your list of markers. But it has to be real on some level. Like it has to feel like, oh, that would be so amazing if I could do that.
Now I'm laughing because maybe he'll accept my invitation.
Okay, see, there you go. You never know. So to me, that's where you stay open, right? That's the no tension piece. You never know. And you also just put it out into the universe. You write it down, and then you're not going to attach to it, right? We don't want to attach to that. But the markers, it's like you're filling in like a coloring page with color, okay? By actually creating the markers, you're making it real.
Yeah, and are you creating a feeling with those markers?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm thinking about they're kind of a little more tangible, they feel more visceral almost.
Yes, visceral, tangible. Yes, you get excited. The markers help you to just, it's like if you have a black and white kind of piece of paper, it's not that exciting, but when you start to color it in and paint in the different colors, and you're like, oh, that's what that could look like. Oh yeah, there's the sun, there's the green trees, there's this, you're actually creating this beautiful road, so to speak, for yourself. I mean, this is a metaphor, but the road then becomes kind of your life. If you think of your road as your life, you're living your life, and your passions you're saying yes to them. And so, those little green and white markers that you see along the road telling you that you're like mile number 22 and 23.
Yes.
Well, those are the markers, so to speak, that you're living your passion. They're like indicating to you, oh, if that happened in my life, I would know that I'm living my passions.
Right. It's these. Okay. So they're definitely reinforcing and building confidence.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
And propelling you forward.
Yes. All of that.
And sustaining your enthusiasm.
Yes. And yes, because for me, when I start to look at the things that I do during the day and I go, oh my God, that's a marker for this passion. Then I'm like, what? So you're actually turning, instead of looking at all the things that are going wrong, you're actually celebrating all the things that are going right.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's so important because, again, I think there's, at least culturally, there can be a way in which we look at what's not going right. So instead, now we want to look at all the things that are going well in your life and celebrating those things.
That's great. Karin, review the difference between passions and goals and why this difference is significant. I know the book talks about that.
Yeah, so a goal is going to have something that has a deadline, a date. Okay, so if you were to say that one of your markers was to, by January 2023, you're going to enter into bodybuilding something or other, okay? That's a goal, right? Because after January 2023, it's going to end. Now, it could be that you can include goals into your list of markers, but the difference is that a marker is an ongoing thing that continues to show you. So let me give you an example. So if my passion was to be adventurous and strong and healthy, okay, so we'll just stick with the healthy part. And I love going outdoors, and one of my markers is to hike, and to hike weekly to new places. Well, that can go on for the rest of my life.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's no end point.
That's right. So you see the difference then, a goal, end point, marker, no end point.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. And they're both fine to include. This is the thing that I love about this process, is that there's no wrong way to do this.
Yes.
I love that very much, because also there's, we say it's the one test you can never fail.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, you want to, we're very goal oriented. And sometimes people don't know the difference between passions and goals. So,
well, a passion is really kind of the overarching thing that inspires you, that makes you light up.
And then the goals are like markers, but not.
And they're showing you what that passion might look like.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
Now, the book indicates that happy, successful people are role models, and that they consistently have 5 of their top passions present in their life.
That's right. So that's a study that was done, and it's there's another book, Success Built to Last, which is about 200 case studies that were done, and it was again emphasized that these people that they had all been in their position for 20 years or more, and it was great, because what they found is that they said no a lot to the things that distracted them. They just said yes to the things that were there. And again, it was like 5 things that were most important. That's what they focused on. So there is, a few books that I know of, and I think the studies continue to show that this is the key, that when we're saying yes to what matters, we also have to say no to everything that distracts us. Because that's what's going to take us out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes a lot of sense. We've talked about a little bit about the role of attention in realizing your passions. In the book, Janet talks about there's 21 days to break the habit of placing attention on things that create unhappiness and failure in your life.
Okay. So is there a question to that?
Well, we read a lot about habit change, and we've all heard about, 21 days to change a habit. Can we apply this principle, these habit change principles, to, if we're habitually thinking unhappy thoughts and self-defeating thoughts and self-sabotage, how do we shift?
Yeah, I actually think it takes longer than 21 days.
Okay.
And I think Janet would probably say that as well now. I think that was like kind of the mantra at the time, that was 21 to 30 days. And I think what people are now seeing is that if you really want to hold a habit for consistency, you're going to have to do it for more like 3 to 4 months. And then you have to keep checking in to see if it is something that is important to you. Because if I didn't think my health was important, I probably wouldn't do consistently 3 to 5 days a week of working out, strength training. I just wouldn't. But it's that important to me. It's in my top 5.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So when you find, actually, and here's the opposite, that sometimes if you have a limiting belief, and I actually did have a limiting belief around my health at one point. And when I first started, my health and being outdoors and working out was really a very important thing. It was in my top 5. What I found is that I didn't do it. And I was like, what is going on? And we talk about false ideas, false beliefs.
So even though it was in your list,
I had a false belief. And my false belief was that I had to work out for an hour.
Oh, I love that. So therefore, it's hard to even get started, because an hour is like, I'm going to find an hour, right?
That's exactly right. So when I gave myself permission to take, if it was only 5 minutes, that's what I did. If it was, 2 hours, great. If it was half hour, fantastic. I was going to start saying yes, no matter what. Totally changed.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. So you bring up the point of
limiting beliefs can stop us from living our passion. So if you notice that you're saying no to any of your 5, that's when you want to start to investigate and look at, well, what is it? What am I saying to myself? Because that's what I had to do. I remember I went to Chris Attwood. I was like, Chris, why am I doing?
Engage in self-reflection.
Yeah, I did. I had to really look. And he said, if it's in your 5, obviously it's important to you. So look for the false belief. And I went, okay, got it. Okay. So I did, and I found that. And that totally, thank goodness I found it, because now.
Yeah, well, when through your own experience, and then as, a trainer of the facilitators, you could share that experience as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's the 4-day training, though, I just want to say, has been like an amazing transformational experience, because even if I had never taken the passion test and worked with other people, but just did it for myself,
Of course.
massive change for me.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm still doing it after 13 years.
Right.
It is
Right. I know you have your card.
Yeah, exactly. I love this process. When you then teach it, then you have to model it, which also helps
That's
you
great.
to live it, right? So it's a fantastic way in which they've done this training that they say you don't have to be a facilitator. You can just do it for yourself. My feeling is you want to do both because it helps you to then live your passions more consistently.
Yeah, because absolutely, because it's well, you're also connecting with other people's passions, other people's enthusiasm.
That's right. True. Always.
And
Yep.
and I think I would imagine that by going through that process, that there's kind of that constant reset with your own.
Yep. And it, I can't help but get excited.
Everyone's a mirror, so.
That's right. Yes, and so you're actually saying exactly why I continue to facilitate the process, why I train the passion test 4-day training, and why I do it myself is because every time I'm engaging in it, then I'm living it even more and understanding the content, the wisdom, talking more in alignment for myself, seeing how I'm doing, you know, what I'm telling other people to do.
Absolutely.
And, you know, you want to be authentic, right? So you can't teach us unless you're actually doing it yourself, living your own passions. That's very important to me. So it's a beautiful tool to keep you engaged. So I just want to say, Noreen, you know, if when people are listening to this, they might want to consider doing the 4-day passion test certification because it is still my favorite training that I've ever done.
We'll definitely follow up with that at the very end. We'll give people information if they want to get further information.
Okay. Oh, cool. Yeah. Great.
A couple more questions that I have for you, Karin. This one is, sometimes, this is right from the book, sometimes your dreams are placed on hold. Janet's story of taking care of her stepmom, who was diagnosed with a terminal illness, is an example. When she was on her way to India to produce a documentary film on highly enlightened spiritual leaders.
Right.
How can, I'm laughing because I love that. How can you turn what is apparently a block in the road to realizing your dreams into an opportunity? How can you change this block into an opportunity, and how can you see it as a blessing or a gift?
Well, that story, and I've heard Janet tell this story many times, it's pretty amazing because this is how I saw what happened. Top thing was for her to go to India. Okay, her stepmother got sick and was dying, and she decided to be with her. So what happened is a passion became less important and another passion came up higher.
Okay, so this is an example of reassessing and realigning.
Absolutely. So, and I think Janet very quickly realized family. I need to be with family. I need to be with my stepmother.
Yeah.
Now, what was really miraculous about that whole thing is that there was an Indian guru that heard about her stepmother who had died. Don't ask me how this all came about. I don't remember all the details, but then this Indian guru came to the house because her stepmother, it was a person that he had known in some past life. There was just like these miracle things that were connecting, and this guru came to the house and did this entire blessing for her stepmother. she did not know who this man was,
And
but she just
I believe the
accepted.
guru thought that the stepmother was his mother in a prior
That's
life.
it. That's what it was.
Something
Yes,
that was just seemed so incredulous, right?
really. And it was like she brought India to her.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
so think about that.
Wow, that's beautiful. I hadn't even processed that.
So she actually was bringing these Indian
You
gurus
didn't even have
to
to.
her without even, and not, she didn't leave India. And then she actually went to India after
Yeah.
all of that, and then went back and met him again. And there was like all these synchronicities that occurred when Janet just allowed things to flow.
Yeah.
So
Is this an
amazing.
example of surrender?
Truly. Yes. That was the no tension piece.
Okay. So it's surrender versus feeling defeated, or, I mean,
Exactly.
there has to be some level of disappointment when obstacles come up, though.
Well, if you allow yourself to realize that something bigger than you is guiding all of this, and you can actually take that in and go, oh, okay, there's a reason here. I don't need to know what it is at this, it'll unfold.
Sure.
And then you allow it to unfold. And then you go, oh my gosh. And it actually, she was starting her journey already there with her stepmother to India. I mean, it was powerful. I heard that story and it still boggles my mind. It's a beautiful story. And Janet is an incredible storyteller.
Yeah.
So to hear the story, I mean, it's in the book. Yes. But even to hear her add other details is quite phenomenal. And it really is a great example of the whole passion test formula: intention, attention, no tension.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Well, we are at the top of the hour, Karin. We have two options. I'm happy to keep going for another half hour. I have more questions. We don't have to do that. However, I want to be respectful of your time. We can end with how people can reach you, what's really jazzing you currently. I know you're working at a bunch of different things, so It's totally up to you.
Well, let's end, and then what I'd like to do, if I would be happy to come on again at another time and either answer those questions, or we could do a whole nother conversation, because I think there's many conversations that you and I could have. Yeah, so what I would say is, I mean, if I was to just wrap this up in a package, I would say, no matter what, really get clear about what is most important to you. The science, the neurosciences, we can only remember 5 to 7 things. Mm-hmm. So don't think you have to come up with, you get a list of 10, but we bring it down to 5. Then just play. And I like to use the word play, because then it's like, oh yeah, like the stress, the tension that we sometimes feel about perfection, we can relax that. And instead just play with putting attention on your passions every day.
I love that. I love that. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be super serious about it. But have some fun with it.
Yes, because I mean, to me, life is about having fun.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, I can't live life without some fun.
What's the point?
Right, exactly. And then start to, really see the magic, because, I call it magic, but it's kind of, it just is a natural unfolding that if you follow, saying yes to your passions, if you allow things to enter into your life, because they will. When you start telling people, these are my passions, you are looking at your passions, then things start to, when you say you love traveling, and then I go, oh, I know Noreen loves traveling. I just got this ticket. I have these free points. Hey, Noreen, you want to go and do this trip? And you're like, oh my God, you thought you had to make all this money, and here I am offering, right? So travel can come, all these things, whatever your passions are, can come to you when you stay open. That's that beautiful no tension piece. So I'm a strong believer, as you can tell, in living one's passions. And I always use and take myself and my husband and I, we take each other through our passions every year or sometimes it's less. I'm actually going to go through it this month. So
is it a good time of the year for people to consider doing if they want to do it annually, is the end of the year, beginning of the year, because are those good times? Or
well, I mean, for me personally, that's when I find, because we're wrapping up the year
Sure.
and now we're moving into a new year,
Of course.
it does seem to seasonally be a good time for me. But you can do the passion test training anytime or go through the passion test anytime. And I know that there is a online course that we're going to be doing December 8th through the 11th.
Okay.
And so we are doing more of the courses now online. That was not something that we used to do. We used to think we could never do a live course into an online. And we found that they are so powerful online.
Sure.
I mean, it's
awesome.
It's mind-boggling, Noreen, to just see
current reality.
So we have a 4-day course coming up December 8th through the 11th, and it's on the passiontest.com website.
Okay.
I can send you a link, and you can then add it if you would like. And you can always,
No need, because I can get the link.
Okay.
But I will include it in the show notes. Yeah.
Perfect. And there's going to be more coming up in 2023. It's not like that's the last and only one,
Sure.
but there won't be another one, I think, until March, I believe. Okay. March or April. So they're done every, quarterly pretty much. So, and there's so many other programs that Janet has created besides the Passion Test for Kids and Teens. There's the Passion Test for Business, which is a really wonderful program. And then we also have Janet in the last 7 years, I believe, she created a program called the Mastery of Self-Love, because what she found was that people are living their passions and then they stop. And then what she realized is that they stopped not only because of those limiting beliefs, is because they didn't love themselves enough.
Yeah, I saw there was some reference to that, I believe, in her book as well. That
well, that's a really big thing.
Yes.
And that was not in the book at all, because she hadn't developed that program yet. You might have seen it in other things on the Passion Test website. Sure. But that to me is the bundle of taking the Passion Test Facilitator course and the Mastery of Self-Love. And she gives like a phenomenal discount. Like over $1,000 you get off the whole thing.
And it sounds like they really go hand in hand, because
I feel like they do. I've gone through it. I'm now a trainer of that program as well. I am fully in it because I see what Janet said, and that really is that it's the left and the right hand working together.
And of course, the low self-esteem and the lack of self-love translates into those limiting beliefs.
That's right. Exactly. So
undermines our ability to fulfill our dreams. So
that's right. Oh, absolutely.
I think that's where that's really significant and important for people to consider. So, and how about what's jazzing you these days besides the Passion Test? I know you're doing this journaling. You have a website as well. And how do people get in touch with you, Karin?
So my website is Dr. Dr. and then my name, Karin Lubin, KarinLubin.com. So it's drkarinlubin.com. And there's a bunch of information about Passion Test under trainings. And if people want to know more about the exercise that I do, there's a link for that. And there's more about the journaling. I mean, I could talk forever. Those are my passions.
I love your exercise on your website. I just think that is absolutely, and the photographs, what you have on there, it's like, you're out there, you're saying, I'm buff, I'm working at this. I can help you work at it too. And I just love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic.
Well, thank you. And you look pretty buff yourself.
Oxygen magazine. I think years ago I had this aspiration to be on the cover of Oxygen magazine.
Yeah, really. See, and that must be one of your passions.
We have it. What?
Is it one of your passions? You work out. I can tell.
I do work out, but I don't. Yeah. But I'm not a bodybuilder. Yeah, I do a combination of yoga every day.
Fantastic.
I've been doing that for over 25 years. And walking.
Wow.
I like to be in
Okay.
nature like yourself. You talked about hiking.
Yes, I love that.
I just have to get outside. I love that.
Yeah,
I want to be connected with nature, because when I'm connecting with nature, especially in the early morning and the early morning sunlight, I am increasing the prana in my physiology.
Beautiful.
So that's really intuitively I know that, but that's also coming from Ayurveda as well.
Very nice. Well, I am, what lights me up is having conversations like this.
Yeah,
I mean, I could do this all day.
This is awesome. Well, and so people can reach you from your website. Is that the best way?
That's yes, or you can always email me at karinlubin@gmail.com.
Okay. I'll include that as well.
Oh, thank you. And
Karin,
really, Noreen, it's awesome
much
to
fun.
talk to you. Really, it has been. Thank you so much. I would love to do this again if you ever want to do it. I'm all in.
We will be doing that. And thank you so much for bringing this incredible information. And we'll chat soon. Have a wonderful day.
Yes, and thank you, Noreen, and thank you, Janet and Chris, for having created the book and the programs.
Absolutely.
All right.
Essential programs.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.